What's up, everybody?
Hey, what's happening?
Welcome to 186th episode of
The F and Marks podcast. I'm Jay.
And I am the brainless one, as usual.
Yeah.
Because it's not just a gimmick, it's a lifestyle.
It indeed is.
A lot we got to get into today for the podcast. I just cannot believe the first thing that's listed on the whiteboard of Wondertude. You know, we've been doing this for so long, and we've been doing this for over 4 years now, 186 episodes today. We've had some very interesting topics we've had to talk about. We've talked about, all the wrestling pay-per-views. We've talked about people getting arrested. Unfortunately,
some of the crazy stuff Vince McMahon's done throughout his life.
And I got to say that today marks a day that I never thought that we would actually have happen, where we are going to talk about Marty Jannetty.
And not talking about him in who's the Jannetty of this tag team?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times we always talk about who is the Marty Jannetty of every tag team. I mean, a lot of times I'll even see a tag team just walk in for the first time. I'm like, all right, let's figure out Jannetty quick. But it's incredible how this man's life has just become what it's become. Like, I cannot believe some of the shit that I've read over the years about Marty Jannetty, and it's like the story about before where he was like attracted to his stepdaughter was bad enough. It was like this story came up to me and said, "Hold my beer." But we're gonna get into that in a little bit. We're gonna talk about other things that have happened in wrestling this week. We're gonna talk about the debut of Raw Underground, which was brought to everybody by Shane McMahon. Give our opinions on that. We also had a Jericho versus Orange Cassidy debate on AEW Dynamite, and of course the GOAT Eric Bischoff was there. I want to talk a little bit about that. We had a new faction that debuted sort of on Raw and then made an appearance last night on Smackdown called Retribution. We want to discuss that, give our takes of who we think can and might be in that faction as well. And anything else that is wrestling related, we're going to talk about.
And we'll talk about Adam Cole, baby! And he and Pat McAfee apparently have now been officially announced as a match for TakeOver.
I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited. Your boy Gronk had to ruin everything for everybody by going back and playing for his boyfriend Tom Brady with the Buccaneers.
While you bring that up, one thing I'm happy to say is I can now officially go back to Patriot games whenever they start having fans again. That was the reason Tom Brady got injured.
So you're saying we should take you to a Bucs game?
If I go to a Bucs game, yeah, I'm game to go to a Bucs game.
And you and I have had this discussion before. If I had that same mentality as you, I definitely would have never gone to another Giants game after injuring Lawrence Taylor.
You did injure.
He tore his Achilles my first Giants game I ever went to. And I went to plenty of them afterwards.
Yeah.
Because the important thing was the Giants won the game.
Right.
And then they won the next game. And then they won a few others. They only lost a couple of times when I was there, but that's not neither here nor there. But anyway, let's talk about wrestling.
Yeah.
Got my Randy Orton shirt on today. I'm feeling really good.
I feel good. I feel great.
I feel wonderful. AKA from the GOAT, Bill Murray.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said AKA, but I think I need my brain medicine this morning.
You can't have brain medicine unless you have a brain. All right. Do we want to get into? Well, let's get into Jannetty. I mean,
that's what she said.
This man, I remember when the Rockers broke up all those years ago. I was always more of a Jannetty dude. And I'm like, I enjoyed him more. And I understand completely where Vince McMahon was like, no, I don't have high hopes for him. But Marty Jannetty this week on social media came out and more or less admitted to killing a guy back in the day. And then when he went to further his statement, he more or less further put guilt upon himself, and now a case has been opened up against him. It's sad, but you're like, whoa, really? And that's why you're laughing, because it's like,
the reason I'm laughing is that it's funny because of the benchmark that Marty Jannetty has made for himself over the years. It's such a crying shame because, like you said, Marty Jannetty is well above the Coco Beware line.
he was an intercontinental champion. He was a tag team champion. He was in multiple WrestleManias. He was a solid superstar for the WWF for several years.
And one of the things you brought up is you talk about moments that people have had. And when you have a moment, that is in itself is something that you can never take away from. The greatest moment in a lot of people's minds, and I know it's in my mind and your mind, that the greatest moment in wrestling history was when Hogan slammed the Giant. Because everybody remembers where they were when it happened. Everybody knows who was with them.
But not too long after that.
But not too long after that, in my opinion, the second greatest moment in wrestling history happened. And that was when Shawn Michaels super kicked Marty Jannetty in the barbershop and then threw him through the barbershop window.
Side note, Heenan's commentary at that. I don't have anything.
It's fine. It's fine.
But Heenan on commentary after that was fantastic and to help make it, just a little bit better.
Oh, Heenan was the best at everything. I don't care what anybody says.
But that should have helped. I mean, it definitely propelled Shawn Michaels to greater things, and it could have been the kickstart to Marty Jannetty as a singles competitor.
Because a lot of people would have had that sympathy feeling for Marty Jannetty because of the fact that
his best friend
betrayed him and then threw him through a fucking pane glass window.
Yeah.
But that was and just to this day, 20 some odd years later, people always say, who is the tag team's Marty Jannetty?
Yeah.
So it just blows my mind that's where even to this day that it's like nobody ever goes, well, who's the Devon Dudley of this, or who's the Enzo Amore, or who is the Stevie Ray?
Right.
No, it's Marty fucking Jannetty. And then this story comes out, and he goes out there and he goes into in depth about how he killed somebody basically as self-defense because he was getting raped by this person when he was 13 years old. He didn't want his brother to get involved because he didn't want his brother to get in trouble. And then for whatever reason, he has these pictures with a woman who, by the way, not to sound shallow or anything, but not a good-looking woman by any means. Regardless, dude.
Yeah.
He had these pictures with this woman, and he posted them with the post and basically bashed her, saying that not this ugly woman, that I did this, and this. And I'm like,
it won't be the first time I made somebody disappear.
Yeah. And it's like, I had to read the story more than once because I read it. I didn't believe it at first, and I had to read it a second time to just kind of like have a better comprehension of what I just read. And it's like, wow, I don't even have words for this. I really don't. I don't have words for this.
And the thing is, like, what happens if this goes to trial? Do they have to try him as a child because he was 13 when it happened? And how can he prove self-defense? It's really his word and a guy that's dead. There's nobody else there to say one way or another what the hell happened.
Right.
It could have been premeditated. He might just be making up a story. We don't know. But like the fact that he comes out there and apparently because he had some sort of argument with his girlfriend, decides to post on social media, and then I saw a couple of comments out there, and I'm like, where somebody said apparently he's on the good drugs again, and it's like, again, it's just like overwhelmingly sad. It's like this dude had such a possibility of having a bright career, and he just threw it all away with drugs back then. And the fact that like he's still battling those demons, and I know Shawn Michaels has reached out to him, trying to like connect with him, trying to get him straightened out, and WWE offers them free rehab.
And I know that we come out here every week, and believe me, we do it every week, and we bash WWE for a lot of the things they do.
This is one of
the things that WWE does very, very well is the handling of current and especially former employees when they have issues with drugs and alcohol in their lives, and they send them to rehab and get them on the right path. I mean, Scott Hall is a person that I think of.
I think Scott Hall said he's gone on the company's dime like 6 times.
Yeah.
And those things are not cheap.
No. I mean, X-Pac was another person that comes to mind. But it's one of those things that it's like we really hope that Marty Jannetty can actually get his shit figured out. I mean, we sit here and we blast Sonny because of the fact that Sonny's been arrested more times than anybody in the history of mankind, and it's like it's sad because this is all like 90s. Like we think of these people and connect with them in the 90s. And yes, I was
beyond that though. The thing that's sad about it is you kind of grow up like looking up to these people, and then you see and hear about this stuff, and it's sad, and it kind of like if I go back to watch, like let's say WrestleMania 5, and I see Rockers versus Natural Disasters, I'll be like, Jannetty, what the hell, man? What the hell? What do you guys have to say about this? If you've read about this story, what are your thoughts on Marty Jannetty and the craziness that's been his life the last several years? Like I know a few years ago, like he was still wrestling independents, but his ankles got so messed up that he couldn't really wrestle much anymore, and he couldn't do any of the things that he used to do in the ring, really. And like it was just like some dude I saw in the 90s. Yeah, wrestling or 80s in wrestling, and just doesn't have it anymore. And his life has become a sad, sad thing.
I still remember when what was it? Hasbro had the old school action figures, like the ones that were like this. Right. Why am I giving an example? Right. This is it right here. Like, remember when they had these action figures back in the day?
Yeah.
And everybody, you know, I was obsessed with these toys. I have so many of them. You know, maybe if you guys are lucky, I'll bust out my old collection of the wrestling action figures that I have. But I remember getting the Marty Jannetty one and being excited about getting the Marty. I don't know why. I really don't. I was never a Marty Jannetty fan, but I was excited to get the action figure. But, yeah. But like for me, I mean, other than him getting thrown through the pane glass window at the barbershop because of Shawn Michaels, which propelled Shawn Michaels to a point where no human being ever thought that anybody would ever get to. But like for me, the only time I ever remember like Marty Jannetty was when he teamed up with Leif Cassidy to do the New Rockers. Leif Cassidy is also somebody who should be in the WWE Hall of Fame because he's well above the Coco Beware line, and that is Al Snow.
Right. Well, the Rockers, I forget if it was, I think it was late 80s. They were actually supposed to win tag team titles. They actually did a taping, and they won the championship. And I think it was for Saturday night's main event. Mm-hmm. But because the ring ropes got all messed up during the match didn't go off very well. And they were supposed to beat the Hart Foundation. And by the time that was supposed to air, Vince McMahon decided, nah, I don't want them with the titles. And I don't know if that had to do with stuff going on behind the scenes, or if it was just like, nah, I like the Hart Foundation, I'm going with them. But either way, never an official tag team champion as the actual like original Rockers. And I think that could have been a good big moment for them. But
I think, and what's really weird about this, I could be wrong, but I think the first time Shawn Michaels actually won the tag team titles in WWF or E or whatever you want to call it was when he won the tag team titles with John Cena.
That's crazy.
What's up, man? I hate the fact that it's on my phone, but I have to. You know, extenuating circumstances.
Hey, Jake. I'm usually the one who's pretty good at blasting Birdman. Coco Beware, as much as he was a fine entertainer and was one of the wrestlers in the first main event I ever saw in professional wrestling when I was at a live show, the Birdman is not Hall of Fame worthy. He just isn't. Nothing wrong with the Birdman. He's just not good enough to be a Hall of Famer. Anyway.
Yeah?
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, Jannetty, since he left WWF, he's been in and out of WWF a couple of times, and I think he showed up. Was he part of the Heath Slater thing? Like he showed up with Shawn Michaels, I think, at one point in the last 10 or 15 years, and he didn't look half bad.
And I think they were going to try to sign him to a contract, and then for whatever reason, it kind of fell apart. Because it was supposed to be like a one-off thing, and then they got the reaction like they never thought they were going to, and they were planning on offering him a contract, and for whatever reason, it fell through. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But,
so, I mean, he's had his opportunities. Vince McMahon has given him multiple opportunities to kind of straighten himself out and actually earn a living in, you know, the partying ways. And I'm wondering, you know, if him doing what he did, at least what he's stating that he did all those years ago, messed him up so badly. I mean, I know specifically Scott Hall said when, you know, in his instance, like it would, either the guy was going to kill him or he was going to kill the guy, and he ended up killing the guy. And he's like, it's messed me up my whole life. I'm wondering if being that young, and if his story is true, if that's just messed up Jannetty so much that he just can't get beyond that.
I mean, it's the same thing that we talk about like with Snuka back in the day, back in the 80s, where he killed his girlfriend, and Vince McMahon showed up with a briefcase full of money, and you know, people said that Snuka was not in the right mindset when, you know, that
he could have been a much bigger star too if he didn't enjoy drugs so much.
Yes. I mean, you could say that about a lot of people. I mean, the 80s.
Snuka had a charisma where he didn't have to say something. You just like,
because he was just one of those guys.
It.
I mean, the fact is that what was it? Was it Mick Foley that said that the moment that drew him to professional wrestling was when Superfly Jimmy Snuka jumped from the top of the steel cage?
He was there. He was there that night. He in his book he wrote extensively about that and the lengths he had to go to get to that show.
Mick Foley's a go-to, by the way.
But anyway, coming back to Marty Jannetty, it's like I really do pray for the dude, and I hope the heck that he gets the help he needs, and I hope the heck he turns his life around. If he needs to go see Diamond Dallas Page to put him on the right path, I don't think they've ever linked up in any way, shape, or form, but I'm sure DDP's a good human being who just likes to help people get back on their feet.
I'm going to say this about Diamond Dallas Page. As a wrestling fan, I never liked Diamond Dallas Page. Never did.
Yeah?
Diamond Dallas Page, me as a human being, Diamond Dallas Page, I fucking love Diamond Dallas Page. He's done such extraordinary things for so many different people. I think that it's really good that he is doing what he's doing.
All right, there we go. I was like wondering what the heck, why there were no comments.
What happened?
I don't know. There are comments now. What's up, Tim?
What's up, everybody?
I'm going to see if I could actually fix it on this screen. I think I might have supposedly found a way. Oh, there we go.
Holy shnikes.
It's been a few weeks. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah? That's good shit, pal.
Yeah.
I like it. So he
anyway.
Supposedly confessed to killing someone who tried to rape him at 13, and Jannetty claims he killed the guy with a brick and
all the things we kind of,
disappear. That's good shit there, pal, Christopher Brown. Very good shit.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy, like this came out when it did.
Well, and Jannetty calling himself out for it. It's like either he's had such enormous pressure on his brain all these years, or drugs, or both.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. Anyway, I think that about wraps up Marty Jannetty and the sad state of affairs of his life. Again, I pray he turns himself around. So, and I don't know how to gently weave ourselves into a different subject from that, but let's talk about a couple of things.
Hall of Fame to the show. Tommy needs a shout out. Tommy always gets a shout out.
Tommy does get a shout out when he's on the show.
I keep
slacking. Emeritus Hall of Famer Tommy.
I keep forgetting the fact that I have to print out that picture of him and put him on the wall next to the only other person who is as justified as Tommy as being in the Hall of Fame. That's Curtis Axel,
the GOAT.
His picture should be right there, We'll keep that. I want to keep that one. That's still my favorite picture on the board. As much as I like that one and the goat one.
Well, I mean, the guy pointing at his brain has to be behind the brainless one.
I mean, and honestly, Lando motherfucking Calrissian.
Billy D. motherfucking Williams.
I mean, he is so nice. We have him on our board twice.
Yeah.
Because he's a GOAT and a Hall of Famer too, but
yeah, Chris. Almost everything that's happened to the heroes growing up has been self-inflicted, but this is like different level than some of the things you hear about. Like the stuff Hogan did is terrible, but he did not kill anybody that we know of.
But it's like back in the day, and that's a good example is Hulk Hogan. Back in the day, I as a kid growing up, I know that you were more of an Ultimate Warrior fan than you were of anything else. But like for me as a kid growing up, I was a fucking Hulkamaniac. You're damn right I was. I freaking took my vitamins and said my prayers every single day. What you gonna do, brother? Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. Are you kidding me? They had to stop me on more than one occasion from ripping my shirt like Hulk Hogan. I grew up a huge fan of Hulk Hogan. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, this whole thing wouldn't even happen to this day. And just like now, going back and watching these videos of like Hulk Hogan and how coked out of his mind Hulk Hogan was during his promos and everything was just disheartening. It's like, holy shit. This is a guy that I grew up worshiping and he was a great, he was a male role model for me. Hulk Hogan was my first hero that was not blood related to me. It was Hulk Hogan. Before anybody else, it was Hulk Hogan. And I admired Hulk Hogan and I loved Hulk Hogan. And I mean, even to this day, there's two people in my Rushmore that will never get knocked off of it, and Hulk Hogan is one of them. I mean, Steve Austin is the other one. What? But yeah, just seeing like the guy that I grew up, being a fan of, like Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper and Randy Savage, just seeing how coked out of their minds they were in the 80s. I mean, hell, the one person that you could tell in like the 80s and 90s who really loved cocaine, who still works for WWE, Michael P.S. Hayes. I don't think anybody loved cocaine and wrestling more than Michael Hayes.
Probably not.
And it's funny, like we always talk about Clash 13. And Clash 13 is another prime example of it. Like you see him come to the ring with Jimmy Jam Garvin, and he is like, if he is not on coke, I have no idea what the fuck is up with that dude. He just had this look on his face, and like, holy fuck.
Yeah. And
they all love cocaine. They all did.
In the 80s, but again, it comes back to the idea of like what Jannetty did is like different level, and if his story is true, it's like going, all right, I feel a little bit bad. I feel bad for him if he was a 13-year-old and had to deal with that. Yeah. And not only did he have to deal with somebody abusing him, but then he had to deal with the fact that somebody is gone from Earth because of him. So.
I agree. It's unfortunate.
It is, and it sucks that it kind of paints a different picture for the people we grew up watching.
Yes.
So, anyway.
I said we get into Monday Night Raw.
All right. So one thing I definitely want to bring up first about Monday Night Raw is we had a new thing called Raw Underground. And Shane McMahon, who supposedly was supposed to be gone from WWE for the rest of his life, and everybody and their mother knew that
he was fired by Kevin Owens.
Everybody and their mother knew that this was not permanent, but I guess this is, a way to circumvent that. Well, he's not on Raw; he's on Raw Underground.
If that's how they're going to do it, and they're going to book Shane McMahon to be in charge of Raw Underground, I'm 100% on board with that.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect from Raw Underground. I saw that it was something that they were discussing bringing in there. I watched it the first time. I'm fucking sold. I am fucking sold. I thoroughly enjoyed Raw Underground because it gives guys a chance and an opportunity to do stuff, and it's WWE thinking outside the box.
It's a different presentation of it, and it's kind of a way that, I've been talking about on the podcast for a while, but I specifically wanted Lashley and Lesnar to have fights, like a wrestling match that looks like Raw Underground.
Yeah, and I like the fact that Dolph Ziggler was a part of Underground. Eric from the Viking Raiders, who is a pretty badass motherfucker, if I do say so myself. He was in there. The fact that they got Dio Madden to be part of that. The fact that
Dolph.
What's the I said Dolph already.
Okay.
Dolph was the first one out of my mouth. Dolph was the first one out of my mouth. But whatever I keep forgetting, like what is it? The Pain something? The MVP faction.
The
Hurt Business.
Yeah.
I'm on board with the whole Hurt Business. I love the fact that it's MVP, who I've been a fan of for a long time, Shelton Benjamin, who I've also been a fan of for a very long time, and Bobby Lashley, who since his return to WWE, I didn't mind him before, but badass Bobby Lashley
is the way
I am 100% on board with. The three of them in a faction is fantastic. I love the fact that they're doing something with these guys. They could be very influential in the success of Raw Underground because they're three bad motherfuckers who would fight. Bobby Lashley's got the Bellator background, and Shelton Benjamin was an amateur wrestler at the University of Minnesota. And
I want to say he was an All-American.
He was. Too. I think he was too.
So he was no slouch.
And he's one of he's one of Brock Lesnar's best friends.
And you know what? Seeing Shelton Benjamin in this fight, and this is the way we need to see Shelton Benjamin.
Absolutely.
He was awesome.
I love Shelton Benjamin. And you think about MVP, a man who's been incarcerated in the past. That MVP is a bad motherfucker too. I think it's good. I think that this has a chance to do something and help out a lot of these wrestlers. I think this is something refreshing. I try to keep an open mind with a lot of the things that they do here in WWE, especially here in WWE. And I think that Raw Underground has that chance. And one name that I keep hearing that gets floated around that would actually excel in Raw Underground is Ricochet. And I really do think that Ricochet is one of those guys who will really make a name for himself in Raw Underground. I guess my question is, with Raw Underground, does this mean that only Raw talent is going to be influential in Underground, or could we see like a Cesaro or a Sheamus or Braun Strowman appear on Raw Underground? Maybe we can get like a Tommaso Ciampa or a Donovan Dijakovic. Maybe even Keith Lee come up and take part in the Raw Underground.
They haven't been super clear with that, but they had some new superstars in it. I forgot. Dude had a real unique name, but like he was just a big hoss of a dude, and he just.
I know who you're talking about.
He looked really good, and like I think it gives an opportunity for somebody. Like I think if there's a talent who is like unrefined as far as being a wrestler in the professional wrestling ring, this is a great way to get them in front of a crowd and get used to performing without having to you need to know some basic maneuvers, but like as far as like it's supposed to look like a shoot fight.
Yeah. So
I dig the idea of this.
I do too.
I think Aleister Black would be a great fit for that. And a couple things I want to back up to. Monsef's asked to be in the Hall of Fame. Monsef, we shall see. We're always looking for some of our view. The folks who watch the podcast do have an opportunity for getting into the Hall of Fame, as you know. Also, he asked us specifically about Scott Hall. We brought up that, I think, maybe before you got in. But, with Scott Hall, it was like he was either going to get killed or he had to kill the person. So that was 100% self-defense. But we know that messed him up. He admitted that in the E60 documentary they did on him. So,
that which is incredible that you bring up the E60 because F. Mark's Hall of Famer Sean O was also in that same exact E60.
You know who else was in it for like a split second? This guy. You could see my Hawaiian shirt.
Ooh.
Yeah. When there were a couple camera angles, like I was up in the balcony of that. Like when Scott Hall almost died. Anyway.
Good shit, pal.
Anyway, so back to Raw Underground. Entertaining as heck. Now, like having the looping music also reminds me of the night where Scott Hall almost died. They actually looped the Wolfpack music for like 45 minutes. Most wrestling themes for me get old after about a minute and a half. 45 minutes of the Wolfpack's theme, like every like 4 minutes, hearing the wolf go, and then so like them having the continuous loop of the music, I would prefer them to maybe not have that, or maybe switch up the music, but I like the look of it. I love the feel of it. The dancing cheerleaders, I'm not sure about, but you know what? At least they're giving something completely different a try. So I love that they're doing this.
You know, it's funny to go to your whole looping thing. I guess I'm a little bit different. I could probably listen to Real American, probably for I could go like a 3-hour loop and just listen to nothing but that.
Yeah.
One of the times I drove home to Connecticut, I downloaded Shinsuke Nakamura's song. Yeah. I must have heard it like 30 or 40 times on the way up to Connecticut.
There are certain wrestling songs that I could get through the whole thing. Real American I could get through now when it starts looping.
It's the greatest song ever made. I don't care what anybody says. No, Real American is the great. Admit it right now. Admit it right now in front of all of our fans. Real American is not just the greatest wrestling theme of all time. The Real American by Rick Derringer is the greatest song ever made.
Wrong. Shine On You Crazy Diamond from Pink Floyd is the greatest song ever made. Rick Derringer doing Real American, for me, my favorite version is the one where they have like that airy start where it's just him singing.
Yeah.
And then the music and the drums kick in. But, you know, if they're trying to hype up the crowd, it wouldn't work well if you had that little beginning thing where he's just singing on it. Real American. Like that little subtle intro. But like when you get a live crowd, you need to have that immediate so that's why they always cut it out. But I love the version with Rick Derringer singing on his own at the beginning. It's so awesome. And I think there might be keyboards.
And it's funny too because I remember they did a documentary on Hulk Hogan. And when he was making his way to the ring, I think it was during the documentary where he came out at WrestleMania and he did that thing where Eugene was put in the camel clutch by.
Andy is saying that he thinks that Honky Tonk Man has the best theme song ever, and Tim is asking how much Hogan Kool-Aid did you drink?
All the Hogan Kool-Aid. I've been drinking Hogan Kool-Aid since I was fucking 5 years old.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, as a wrestling fan, even though I was like
bands,
13 years old, I almost cried when Hogan turned on. I was pissed. I was legitimately, visibly pissed off when Hulk Hogan turned at Bash of the Beach '96.
You can stick it, brother.
Like my whole childhood just collapsed that night, and it took me like I hated Hulk Hogan for so long after he did that too. I was like, how is he going to do that to me? I took my vitamins and said my prayers. But like now, being old enough and understanding why he did it, I have a greater appreciation for Hulk Hogan because if he didn't do that, who knows? He probably would have went to the wayside years ago, many years, decades ago.
Right.
Ric Flair.
He's talking about the thing.
Yeah. Kurt Angle does have a really good one too.
Yes.
It's amazing how they did that thing, and people turned it into "You Suck."
You know who turned it into "You Suck," right?
Edge.
He did.
Edge is a good too.
He is a goat.
Just like they did with John Cena. John Cena sucks. That might be my favorite thing. But like you and I arguing over like "Real American" being the greatest song is like how you and I argue over what is the greatest rap line of all time. Of course, you say "House of Pain" to jump around.
Yes.
That line. Of course, I always say that the greatest rap line is "I brush your mouth like Colgate." Like a broken needle, kid, you're missing the point. Just remember, Eminem went after every other rapper in the world except for John Cena because he knew he couldn't beat the Doctor of Thugonomics.
Did he go after R-Truth? What's up?
No. By the way, they have R-Truth shirts on the WWE shop. I almost bought one.
He's the GOAT.
I love R-Truth.
Monsef, yeah, Chris Benoit is one that I can't watch his matches anymore. I just can't.
I'm the Boogeyman.
Boogeyman had a great entrance song. I mean, if you go onto our F and Mark's Facebook page, you will see links to when I actually interviewed the Boogeyman. I interviewed the Boogeyman and Hacksaw Jim Duggan at Comic Con back about 3 years ago. It was cool, and before me and Boogeyman were speaking a little bit before, and he's like, I'm gonna do some like creepy stuff. You think you could sell it? I'm like, I'll sell it better than Santino, and he just laughed. Yeah,
You know who wouldn't have laughed at that? James E. Cornette.
right. So
Maybe we should do that. Maybe you and I could put together a list individually of like our top 10 favorite entrances of all time.
I mean,
I'm not saying for this episode. Like, if we put some time into it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
really think
hey, you know what? I'm going to. Are you talking entrance theme or entrance or both?
theme. It had to be the entrance theme. Like,
Okay, because I was going to say, I think we talked about
It's like,
entrances
if we're gonna
before
do
because
that-
I fucking love Glacier's entrance.
Let's
It
look
was
at a badass
so
entrance.
awesome.
I mean,
Now,
if we're
his music is not something I sit there and super remember, but like for me, like if you want to talk about theme songs,
It's all
like
about presentation.
I going back to Rick Derringer, I prefer Demolition's theme song over Real Americans. I love that.
The Smasher.
And it sounded so badass.
Demolition, Walking disaster. Yeah, I know that. That's another good one. One of the greatest tag team entrances of all time.
I enjoyed them. I mean, they had the like Jason Voorhees masks with the little spikes in it, and they'd sit there and and take off the mask and.
I mean, obviously, with entrances, I mean, there's far and ahead. If like we're just gonna go straight up entrances, music, and all the presentation, it's the Undertaker.
Of course it is.
Because I mean, he had the song that.
And then after that, to me, it's like Ric Flair.
And then I would have to say, you know who would be on my list if we were going to do that? I would have to say it's fucking the
Tim, that's a good one, man.
the Funkasaurus. Bro,
That was great. The Brood.
The Brood had a badass one, but like if we did,
I
like,
mean, that was the
songs,
music and the entrance. It looks so.
But like
good.
for songs, it's Real American. Demolitions is definitely in my top 10.
Dude, Jive Soul Bro. I love Jive Soul Bro. When Biff Busick used to wrestle, aka Orny Lorcan, when he was in Top Rope Promotions, the theme song they used the intro to the Superman theme song into Jive Soul Bro as the theme song for when he and the Ladies Man came out.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I loved it.
Because like for me, another one that always comes to mind was the Harlem Heats.
Mm-hmm.
And how they've kind of just like morphed it into like a Booker T. But can you dig it, sucker? That song, I love that song. That was my favorite WCW entrance song, no question.
And one that is climbing up the charts, I know for the brainless one right now, is Judas.
Yes, Judas is a fantastic
It's climbing
song.
up the charts.
I listen to that song almost every day on my way home from work, and I sing it word for word.
Yeah?
The only other entrance song I might know word for word better than that is probably Real American.
How about Shameless?
It's a shameful thing.
With lobster head.
A careless man who could wind up dead. Too many limes.
So,
But I mean, you were talking about like the repetitiveness stuff, and then we'll stay the whole thing with entrance songs. My alarm that I've been using on my phone for the last 2 or 3 years, it goes off, and it's the same song. I refuse to change it because after a while, usually after like 6 months to a year, I'll change the song. But I have a song on there that I refuse to change because it's been the sound that my phone goes off for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And that song is The Entrance Belongs to
Adam Cole, baby!
And if I'm actually feeling really good when I wake up, I will actually do that and do the boom and all that shit. Because I'm a mark.
That's such good shit.
It's such good shit. I think that's one of my all-time favorites. It's in my
Yeah,
top 10.
Undisputed Era. There's been a lot of really good wrestling themes. Andy is chiming in saying he thinks that Sandman had the best entrance. Now, back in ECW day, he actually entered to enter Sandman.
Yeah.
But Metallica wasn't a fan of that. And the way they skirted that whole thing is it was played in the arena.
Yeah.
And was not actually so they used the microphones from the cameras instead of like it being straight into the system. Because if they did the straight into the system, then they would have copyright issues. And Paul Heyman has many times said, like, yeah, because my dad was a lawyer, I was able to understand this thing and able to skirt a lot of these issues. So, Tim, if you want Sexy Kurt to count, you can.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels was a banger too back in the day.
Did you prefer the Sister Sherry version?
Oh, absolutely. When Sensational Sherry sang it was so much better. And not to say that the one that Shawn actually sang was worse. Then I would say, I mean, oh man,
There's so many good. We'll get to that like in the coming weeks.
And the problem with that is for me, I'm gonna come up with 10. It's gonna be like my list of 10 favorite movies of all time, where I say there's 10, but it's like 37.
Right. Well, I'm just gonna say Star Wars because that includes 10 movies.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Especially Rise of Skywalker. Rey is a Palpatine. Yeah. All right. So, so we'll see what happens with Raw Underground. I'm excited to see what the heck they do with it. It at least changes up Raw from being 3 hours of an unmitigated disaster to at least being 2 hours of the usual trash we see, and then at least something new. It might turn into new trash, but we don't know yet. So
I love to see Underground actually get like its own thing. It's like WWE Underground. It gets its own show on the network.
Well, I mean, it could be like After Dark for AEW. So yeah. All right. So another thing in news and notes here, it's been hinted at that SummerSlam might have a new location. Vince McMahon apparently believes that the audience has kind of gotten tired of just seeing the Performance Center, and allegedly he wants it to either be on a beach or on a cruise ship. Thank you, Chris Jericho, for the idea.
Obviously, Vince didn't come up with that on his own.
So I'd be all for it. I mean, WCW back in the day would have Bash at the Beach and have beach-themed pay-per-views, and you know there wouldn't be so many fans. I wouldn't mind seeing a change of location for this. You know, obviously they've done like the Swamp Fight. They did the Boneyard match, and they've done a couple things off-site.
And they did the Money in the Bank at Stamford, Connecticut.
But I wouldn't mind seeing them do that specifically for SummerSlam. It's the hottest show of the summer, so.
And I can't wait until they throw somebody off of the cruise ship and then they return like 2 days later.
I mean, at least with the cruise ship, I mean, they'll just land in the water as opposed to onto the hallowed ground of Stamford, Connecticut. So.
He ended up in the propeller, blood all over the water. Oh look, there's sharks.
Yeah.
And somehow Rey Mysterio is still going to show up on Raw on Monday.
Speaking of which, Rey Mysterio was offered apparently a big money contract from AEW, very comparable to what WWE is offering him. And it sounds like it's almost chiseled in stone at this point. Rey Mysterio is not going to AEW. He is going to sign back with WWE. And I mean, I think the fact that they did the Dominic storyline, he's trying to help his son break into the top echelon of the industry. It seems like almost like a no-brainer that they were going to keep him around. And rumor has it that it's somewhere in between a 18-month and 5-year contract. So I'm going to guess 3 years for Mysterio, and I think it had a few more dates than what AEW wanted, but the money was more or less the same. So
yeah, I definitely think the Dominic factor played in on that. If Dominic was not getting into the business, or if Dominic was in the independent scene or anywhere but WWE, I think he would have ended up ultimately with AEW. But I think this is a good move for Rey. I mean, they've always been good to Rey in WWE. He's another one of those guys that we always talk about moments, and Rey did have his moment too. So, yeah, It's just I really am happy that he's coming back because I don't want the eye for an eye match to be Rey Mysterio's last moment in WWE. I thought that would have been tasteless and stupid.
Yes, well, I mean, the whole idea of that match was stupid and it shouldn't have ever happened. I mean, WWE constantly trying to one-up themselves with a worse idea. I mean, and they've been doing that for the better part of like the last year. Now, Boneyard match, they one up as far as good ideas.
Oh, same thing with the Firefly Funhouse. I know a lot of people shit on the Firefly Funhouse.
I know you love it.
I fucking loved it because at the end of the day, I want to be entertained.
Right.
If I'm not going to get a really good, I'm going to get good wrestling matches because you have too many talented guys between NXT and the main roster who are going to have good, especially the NXT guys. But like you knew that you were going to get a good match out of Edge and Randy Orton. You know you're going to get a good match out of Dolph Ziggler. You know you're going to get a good match out of Nakamura or Cesaro. I want to be entertained. And that is exactly what the Firefly Funhouse did. The fact that the Firefly Funhouse and the Boneyard match were the only two matches that WrestleMania 36 needed to be better than WrestleMania 9.
I mean, to be fair, though, I mean, WrestleMania 9 did have Giant Gonzalez versus The Undertaker play.
It also had such a bullshit freaking title change at the end of the show.
Right. Brother.
And it's just like, oh, look, he showed up with a shiner, and we can't explain why he had the shiner.
Now, yeah, you know, it is what it is. And if this is your first time tuning into the F and Marks podcast, make sure you like us on all our social media outlets at the FNMARKS, and that'll be on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram,
on Periscope.
So make sure you like or subscribe, and we will like or subscribe back.
Yes.
And make sure you tune in at the Wrestling Marks page, which is where we go live every week. And make sure you set notifications to let you know when we have gone live. So,
yeah.
All right. So Chris chiming in saying that Atlantic City in New Jersey is one of the places that they're looking at for possibly having that. Maybe they could have it outside of the old Trump Plaza, where the sites of WrestleManias 4 and 5 were.
You know what that would be, Jay?
What?
Tremendous. That would be tremendous if they did it outside of Trump Towers.
Well, Trump Plaza. Trump Towers in New York. If they did it on Trump Tower.
Sad. Sad.
And there was Trump Taj Mahal.
Sad. It's a very, very sad day in America.
So we'll see what ends up happening with that. I mean, I know they don't want to do Connecticut beaches because Connecticut beaches suck.
No, I mean the wrestlers. I mean, it would suck for guys like Matt Riddle who would make their way to the ring and step on like 3 pieces of glass, have like cigarette butts
and a couple of syringes,
and like somehow a jellyfish would end up in the ring.
Yes.
Can't see the water. If you want to see real beaches, come to where we are in Virginia Beach. Has some of the most beautiful beaches you would ever see. They maintain that beach very well. The water is clear. You can see in it. If you want to see the exact opposite of what a really good beach looks like, go to Connecticut. Yeah.
Thank you, Connecticut.
Thank you,
Dan Malloy for being the 50th best governor in all the United States, and Lamont carrying on tradition.
He's carrying that crown very, very proud.
And if you want to include the territories, 57th. Yeah.
Oh, there's finally a vaccine for the coronavirus.
I think I heard allegedly. You know who came up with it? Russia. If that's the case, though, hey, you know what? Whoever comes up with it, good for you. And hopefully we can get back to like being able to see people in person, like, and be able to have sporting events, and you know, in general, not be fearful of going out to a damn restaurant. So
I just want sports because I want to see the Giants go 5-11 this year.
Yeah, Danny Dimes.
And the best part is the Patriots will not win the Super Bowl.
The Buccaneers will.
Fuck the fucking ears.
Anyway. All right. So
it'll be the Chiefs again.
Probably. It could be the 49ers.
Could be the Ravens.
Could be.
And
all right.
Not going to be the Giants.
It is not going to be the Giants.
It will not be the Giants. We're the Jets.
If you ask a Cowboy fan, it's going to be the Cowboys.
I mean, damn. I mean, we're going to go 16-0 and shit, man. I mean, we were able.
Do they even have a quarterback? Have they signed an extension?
No, he's going to play out this year.
Okay.
I mean, we picked up CeeDee Lamb and shit because we're going to throw the ball down the field and shit, and we still got Zeke and shit, even though our defense isn't as good as it used to be and shit.
Shit, man. All right. So Monday Night Raw, we had Apollo Crews returning, going against Montel Vontavious Porter for the United States title. And Apollo Crews was still the official holder of the title, even though MVP had the new one.
Man. I know he's been kind of stuck in like a rut since he got called up to the main roster. And you and I had talked when they did it years ago that he was brought up way too soon because he was tremendous in ring
performer.
I mean,
great, ready to go.
He reminded me a lot of a young Shelton Benjamin, where Shelton Benjamin could have a match against just about anybody. But the fact is that Shelton Benjamin at first really wasn't good on the microphone. I'm not saying he's great on the microphone. He's gotten better over the years. But Shelton Benjamin, his talent alone could have carried him. I knew he wasn't going to be like a main event caliber because they tried. And then they were like, God, this guy can't talk on the mic.
Right.
And the thing about Apollo Crews is that he never really developed any kind of a character. He was just a good in-ring performer and just smiled all the time like he's fucking David Winfield.
Yeah. But at the beginning, before this match even started, MVP actually threw a whole bunch of shade at Crews, but also the shade ended up on Ricochet and Cedric Alexander, where he's like, I'm going to send you back to catering with Cedric and Ricochet. And it's like, damn. And I'm sure he talked to them beforehand before he said it, but I'm sure it's not their favorite thing that he brought up, but also true. But during this match, we had the lights flickering on and off, and eventually we have MVP lose the match, but he's claiming it's because he was distracted from the lights, and he asked for a rematch immediately.
The Hurt Club.
And Apollo Crews has granted his rematch, and they're going to be going against each other at SummerSlam. Playa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Hurt Club's awesome, Andy. I'm excited to see them, especially like if they end up being like the takeover, like Raw Underground. They look so badass in that. I'd love to see that keep up. But Apollo Crews going over, officially taking charge of the new design for the U.S. title, and Crews said he's giving his kids the old one. So good they finally kind of were able to push that storyline forward. Supposedly Crews had coronavirus, supposedly, but nothing official because WWE doesn't want anybody who is a performer coming out and saying they had coronavirus because that would cause all sorts of issues.
I'm used to that by now.
Yeah. All right. So then we had, after this, I think it was on the KO show where Ruby Riott was out. And Ruby Riott talked about, when she came back, she was hoping things would go back to normal and Riott Squad would be back together. And she was like, well, Sarah Logan had different things going on in her life and she's in a different spot. And Liv was doing fine on her own. And, we had some matches and, I just felt lost, but just talked about how I feel we're better together than we are apart, even though Liv's been doing fine on her own, but I think we're better together, which ended up like the Iconics come out, make fun of her, but almost forced the hand, and Liv Morgan came out, and Liv, I think, kind of grudgingly is like, all right, we'll team, and they ended up going against the Iconics.
My favorite part about that was, I want to say Billy Kay smacked Kevin Owens on the KO show. And I was going to tweet at Billy Kay and say, you better watch out, Kevin Owens will probably block you. Because that's what that big, fat, fucking bitch Kevin Owens does. He blocks people when they don't,
When they make fun of him and when they do stuff to him, like if he looks like somebody stole his cupcakes, and you state that he looks like somebody stole his cupcakes.
You want to know how I really feel about Kevin Owens?
How do you really feel about Kevin Owens?
I will forgive Bugsby for eating my sandwich before I forgive Kevin Owens for blocking us.
That is a big...
I will never, ever forgive Kevin Owens for being a bitch. And he is a bitch. I don't care what anybody says. Kevin Owens is a fucking bitch. And if you all want to tweet at Kevin Owens and say, hey, by the way, at Rappin' Robbo says that you're a bitch, he might, he definitely will block you if you call him a bitch. But I'm just saying, I fucking hate Kevin Owens. I don't think there's anybody in wrestling I hate more than, no, I take that back.
Kevin Dunn.
Vince McMahon.
Okay.
It's Vince McMahon. It's Kevin Dunn. It's fucking Dave Meltzer.
He's not WWE.
Oh, I was talking about wrestling in general.
Okay.
And then I was going to say Kenny Omega, and then it's Kevin Owens. I hate Kenny Omega more than I hate Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Although Kenny Omega could definitely solidify himself in the top 3 if he blocks me on Twitter too.
Right. Maybe he will after total brainless annihilation. We got to make sure we tag him on that.
Oh, I'm absolutely going to fucking tag him on that. I might cut a Kenny Omega promo. When it is over the top and stupid.
Right.
Because I'm the cleaner. I'm the cleaner. I'm the one to go into your refrigerator and clean out all the fucking leftovers.
Brush your mouth like Colgate. Yeah. Monsef says he's a part of GOAT. He's the GOAT of a bee. A biatch.
Okay.
Biatch.
Okay, Monsef.
Yeah.
Monsef is really trying to solidify himself in Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, Gags the Clown did something this past week that he kind of solidified himself too.
Hey, everybody has to have their opportunity.
Oh,
everybody gets their opportunity here.
I think this might be the biggest Hall of Fame class we ever have too.
It might. Nia is not going to get into the Hall of Fame, but one thing we probably should come up with is a Hall of Shame.
Oh God.
We could have a great time with that.
Oh, you have no idea. I could dedicate an entire 3-hour episode to the Hall of Shame.
And I don't even need to be here. You'll probably come up with like a song of all the people that are in it. And you're going to loop, we didn't start the fire.
Challenge accepted. Oh, I like this idea. I am going to make a song about people I don't like it. I'm just going to call it the Brainless Hate Club. Or something. The last song I came up with that nobody knows about was actually spectacular.
Yes. It's going to happen.
What do you mean it's going to happen? It's already happened. We got other things that
we got to,
Yeah?
Next mix match challenge. This is the team that they're saying that you would enjoy.
Kevin Owens and
Nia Jax.
Speaking of Nia Jax, she got suspended indefinitely without pay for her actions this week on Raw. She had a moment where she was in the ring with a producer, and she basically knocked the dude the fuck out. The guy sold it better than Shawn Michaels did at SummerSlam 2005 against Hulk Hogan. But
and just a little bit better than John Cena at SummerSlam 2010. Yeah, so thankfully she'll be off TV for a while. Maybe she could learn how to wrestle. What's up, David? Thanks for tuning in, man. All right. Then we had Akira Tozawa and the Ninjas winning the 24/7 title. It's only a matter of time before R-Truth gets the title back.
I know. He's only like this 908th time champion. He's already better than freaking Ric Flair, Charlotte Flair, John Cena, Randy Orton, Triple H, and all of them combined.
Right.
I think he's actually won more championships than anybody else in WWE. Or has won more title reigns, I should say.
Right. Number of reigns.
Because you know who was actually in the top, you'd be surprised. Raven.
Oh, hardcore title.
Yeah, because he held the hardcore title like a shit ton of times.
Sure.
So I think like Chris Jericho is near the top of that list too, because he's won like everything multiple times.
Right.
And he's like, I'm still below Raven.
Yeah. All right. So beyond that, we had Sasha going against Shayna, and Shayna ends up losing via DQ. So, did I have that opposite? Maybe I had it opposite. Yes, it was Sasha winning, and it was because Asuka came and attacked.
Yep.
And more or less, Asuka put a beating on Bayley similar to what happened to Kairi Sane last week. And Stephanie McMahon later in the week on SmackDown said, all right, well, we're basically, I don't like this setup because it's going to tick me off. I mean, I guess it'll mean something in the end, but Bayley will be going against Asuka, and if Asuka wins on Monday Night Raw, she will be going against Sasha
for the Raw Women's title
at SummerSlam.
And I think that the SmackDown title will be determined in a battle royale.
A tri-branded battle royal, which with the coronavirus and everything going on, I'm sure people are like, why are they having a battle royal? That's going to be a lot of people in the ring. I know WWE for something like this is going to make 100% sure everybody is 100% tested and clear of this. Mm-hmm. If you're 100% clear and tested, you should be able to meet with as many people as you want in the ring. So as long as they do that, I'm cool with them having a battle royal, triple branded, and you know, I hope they give somebody an opportunity who, like somebody like Rhea Ripley, or somebody like along those lines. I don't want to see a typical.
I know that actually just found out this past week about the NXT Women's Championship. Not to jump the gun a little bit, but I mean, since we're talking about it,
yeah.
We did have Rhea Ripley go up against Dakota Kai to determine the number one contender for Io Shirai's championship at the next NXT
Takeover Triple X.
And Dakota Kai was the one who ended up winning that match. So I'm glad that she's getting an opportunity. I love it.
And was helped out by Mercedes Martinez, who's part of the Robert Stone
brand. Yep. Mercedes Martinez, and I think we found out was the one that's from Connecticut.
I think you said
Waterbury. Dirty Water.
And I don't know if I just missed it, but Rhea Ripley has blonde hair now.
She does.
It looks good on her.
She died a few weeks back. I follow her on Instagram.
Okay.
She's actually one of my. I follow all my favorites on there. And yes, I actually saw her with the blonde hair, and I said that's a good look for her.
It does. If Charlotte was still around, like she looked a little bit like Charlotte with shorter hair.
And it's funny too, because I think that the blonde. I don't even know if like the blonde's the original hair, but like before she became like the girl who wears like the leather and just became like this bad bitch type of persona and everything. Yeah. When she first got into the wrestling industry, she just had like normal blonde hair. You know, then she decided, to shave underneath, do all the crazy shit with her hair and everything, which is cool. I'm not going to question what something. She gives her a unique look about her that people, and it's something that you stick out with. Because I mean, you want to look like you were made on a conveyor belt, just like everybody else. Kind of like when Dolph Ziggler dyed his hair brown.
He didn't want to do that. Like he was told to do that, and they're like, "Oh no, wait, you look like Ted DiBiase Jr." Oh wait, he's already on the roster.
He came out and he looked like generic wrestler that you create on WWE 2K.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I'm like, that was and I remember the following week he's back with blonde hair, and I'm like, I fucking love it. Because it was so stupid.
It was as dumb as the Viking Experience name. So then we had the tag team champions squaring off in two separate singles matches, and both of them lost to Andrade and Angel Garza.
And believe it was Andrade in his match against Montez Ford. It ended because the referee stopped it because Andrade beat the shit out of him in the ring. And obviously, they look like they're building towards Andrade and Angel Garza going up against
at SummerSlam,
the Street Profits at SummerSlam, which I'm fine with. That's one way to do it. That's a right way of doing it.
Yes, it is. Don't have them win a non-title match to get their opportunity. So
it's always funny because it seems like they always want to do it the right way, and then they come back to their old ways by having a champion lose clean in a non-title match.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they're going to be doing that anytime soon. It's not like Asuka's going to be fighting Bayley to face Sasha. Oh, wait. We
had Dominic on Monday Night Raw this week come out and throw down with Seth Rollins. But one thing that was interesting, though, with Rollins this week was he was trying to get people off the commentary table because they have a bias against him. I thought it was a cool little spot where Samoa Joe's like, you don't want to do this, more or less like, I'm going to kick your ass if you keep trying to do this. But
I love Samoa Joe.
I hope he could get healthy enough to get back to. He deserved to have a run it with the heavyweight title, and it sucks that he got injured and just never had that opportunity, or they were too scared to pull the trigger, because the dude is money with everything.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, the thing with so Chris is saying that he'd rather see Bianca rip Zelina's head off. I think we're going to get that too.
I do too.
Because obviously they're kind of repackaging Bianca, at least in part, to be a sort of ally with them, not necessarily their manager again. But
here's one that I was thinking about with all the women and everything. Because right now, obviously they got Dakota Kai, who is feuding for the NXT Women's Championship.
Yep.
You also have Rhea Ripley, who's now going to be it looks like she's going to be feuding with Mercedes Martinez and the Robert Stone brand, because she, avoided getting into
the two of them, yeah.
And it's like you got all these different storylines. You got Asuka, who's going for the Raw Women's Championship,
most likely
against Sasha Banks and everything. And it's like we've already done the Nikki Cross thing. Alexa Bliss is kind of already wrapped up in this whole.
Although with the end of last night, it feels like the end of her part of the storyline, which we'll get into that a bit more. And let's just say I was not a big fan.
But I mean, right now she's kind of wrapped up in that storyline. This is their chance and opportunity to give somebody else a chance, whether it is somebody from NXT like a Candice LeRae or a Tegan Nox that could be fighting for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship, or it could be one of the women from Raw. I mean, Zelina Vega could be the one that wins the Battle Royale. It could be Shayna fucking Baszler.
Right.
Or it could be one of the girls on SmackDown, whether it's Naomi or Carmella or whoever it could be. Or, just throwing it out there.
Wait.
Tessa Blanchard, who we have heard rumors. I've been saying it, just remember, I was right when I said it. Tessa Blanchard has been having discussions with Triple H, and they've had some fluid discussions about a contract. And I'm telling you right now, I think that before the end of 2020, we see Tessa Blanchard inside a WWE ring, whether it's an NXT ring or one of the main roster rings. Tessa Blanchard will be WWE bound.
I would think it would be a mistake, but I'm going to. Tessa Blanchard seems like a problem child everywhere she's gone. But, one problem child that WWE has had for a very long time
What's up, Jessica?
Randy Orton. Randy Orton did some stuff over the years that probably would have gotten certain people fired, but he did not get fired. But because he was such a big star, they overlooked his shortcomings. Is that what they're going to do with Tessa Blanchard? Perhaps so. I think it would be a mistake, but I know that they might just sit there and, like you always say, they look at the dollar signs, and if they think she's money, they'll bring her in. But speaking of Randy Orton, he and Drew McIntyre had cut damn good promos on one another, and this is kind of the stuff that Drew McIntyre brought up, where he's like, I've had the scratching claw ever since I started wrestling in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
I did some things wrong, and I got fired, and I deserve to be fired. Randy, I know you did things far worse than I did, and you were never fired. You were always given another opportunity. And Orton's comeback to it's because I made the company money, so they overlooked it, more or less, or I was a star.
He knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
Randy Orton is, there's a reason why you don't just work for a company for 18 years consecutively if you're not doing the right job. If you're doing things the right way, whether they like you or not, or some of the things you're doing is not right, I should say,
they'll overlook your shortcomings. But McIntyre bringing up that professional wrestling was not Randy Orton's plan A, kind of playing into the Edge storyline where it's yeah, this was your fallback plan, and Edge was like, this is the only thing I ever wanted to do. and I love doing this. And, Orton did come back at that, like going, look, I've got all the money I want for the rest of my life right now. I don't need to do this anymore. I do it because I love coming in here and like McIntyre talking like, well, you know what? You've been here for so long. Undertaker on Last Ride documentary talked about how he pulled you up and brought you up to his level. Who have you done that for? And he just basically called Randy Orton a dick. He's like, you're a dick and you're just for yourself. It was fucking loved it. I love how they've done this storyline. If this is our plan B instead of Edge Orton 3, I'm cool with this. I think they're going to have a heck of a good match. And I know people complain about Orton kind of working slow and monotonous, but no, it's called selling and registering and selling what's happening. So telling a good story does not happen quickly. The Lord of the Rings did not. If they told the Lord of the Rings in 15 minutes as opposed to, 20 hours, it's just not going to be the same story.
Yes.
So you got to work your way up to that. What's up, Chris? Thanks for tuning in, man.
Is that Chris Harris?
It is.
What's up, Chris?
So I dig what they're doing with this storyline, though. I'm looking forward to their match at SummerSlam.
I think it's going to be a good one, too.
Yeah.
And this will be, if Orton wins the title at SummerSlam, is that 13 or 14 for him?
I believe it's 14. He'll tie Triple H.
Dude, he should tie Triple H anyway.
Well, I wouldn't mind if he passed him out at some point.
Oh, boy, look who it is.
Gags the Clown.
What's up, Eric?
How you doing, man?
Thanks for tuning in. I know that you got a kind of hectic schedule with the kids playing the sports again, but we do appreciate it every time you do tune in, every single time you tune in, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. All right, so that in a nutshell was Monday Night Raw. And we already did a little bit of NXT here with Dakota Kai and Rhea Ripley. We did have Damien Priest going against Ridge Holland and Oni Lorcan. Ridge Holland making his debut on NXT, and this triple threat match was to determine the next participant in the ladder match that's going to help crown the North American champion at NXT Triple X.
And not only did the individual who won this match win the match to earn their spot, he is now my pick. As of right now, unless something drastically happens or changes between now and then, I know I said Dexter Lumis, but Dexter Lumis actually got injured and will not be part of the match, and they're going to have his spot get filled by one of the people who's already been eliminated from that, already got taken out. I think that's what they said.
If they do that, it's just like that Intercontinental title tournament.
But this is how they're doing it, because you know how they're doing all these triple threat matches? I guess they're having a second chance
a play-in
match,
game, yeah.
But it's for the people who were not pinned or submitted, who lost in the triple threat matches.
Oh, okay.
Which so I think I like that.
That's a way of skating by the they didn't get pinned, so they have a shot, which saddens me because that means Oni Lorcan does not have a second opportunity.
Yeah, but
what's up, F and Mark's Hall of Famer Tommy? Thanks for tuning in.
What's up, Tommy?
All right,
but Damien Priest, who ended up winning the triple threat match, is now my pick to win the North American Championship. And I am a huge fan of his. I think he's going to be a star for a long time because he's got the look, he's got the charisma, he's an actual really good in-ring performer. I think that Damien Priest has a chance to be a star for WWE.
Yeah.
As long as Vince doesn't fuck him up.
Well, that's always the thing. All right, so Damien Priest advances, and we'll see him at TakeOver. Then we had the NXT champion and former North American champion, Keith Lee, going in a non-title match against Cameron Grimes. Everybody and their mother knew that Cameron Grimes was not going to win this match. They gave him a little bit of offense, but we all knew that this was just to further the Karrion Kross storyline.
Yep. And I think Cameron Grimes is up for a chance to be in the NXT North American Championship match next week. I think he's going to want the qualifying matches.
So
I think it's him. I think it is next week. It's him and Kushida, and then a third surprise person in the match.
yeah,
It's gonna be Tessa Blanchard. That's gonna be my answer for everything from now on. It's gonna
Tessa
be Tessa
Blanchard.
Blanchard.
All right, great.
Because they're like, because like the whole thing, Tony Khan coming out and saying whether or not they're gonna sign Tessa Blanchard, and it's like you can't, you just can't. I'm like, you're gonna look like a hypocrite if you sign Tessa Blanchard after you basically openly went out and blasted Hulk Hogan and his ex-wife for their opinions on what their opinions are on, but then you go and sign Tessa Blanchard, it's kind of like you can't. It's a catch-22.
Double standard is what it is.
Yeah, that's what I meant. And now that the fact that Excalibur is going to be coming back after his comments that he made, stupid idiot.
Well, with Excalibur, that was supposedly was part of like some storyline with him and Kevin Owens, and because it was storyline, it's a little different. It's like, all right, they're told to do this stuff, so I don't know how much they could have fought against. Like, I'm not saying that without having issues. Even so, having Excalibur off TV was good because he still has not been good in that role. It was nice to hear Taz with JR, although it's strange. Like, Taz is supposed to be like for Brian Cage, and then all of a sudden he went super back into announcer Taz. It's like going, he should have been more heel Taz. Like, but
You said it, JR.
But
Oh, good. I'm glad that I didn't really get a chance to watch AEW Dynamite this week, because if I had to sit through 2 hours of Taz going, "You said it, JR," the entire time, I probably would have shot myself.
he didn't say it very much.
He said it, though, didn't he? You said it, JR. That's all he ever did when he was on the Smackdown team with Jim Ross. You said it, JR.
So anyway, at the end of Keith Lee beating Cameron Grimes, Karrion Kross appears on the screen, and he laid out a whole bunch of NXT superstars.
He's going to be another star that they have if Vince doesn't fuck him up.
Yeah. All right. Then we had Imperium defending the NXT titles against the Undisputed Era. We finally got to see Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly back together again. First time in a long time. Yes, Eric, absolutely. Orange Cassidy on AEW Dynamite explaining global warming is one of the greatest things in all of professional wrestling in a little while. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and we will get into that shortly. So, Imperium goes over in this match because at the very end of the match, Adam Cole, BayBay, got into an argument with one Pat McAfee who was on commentary, and they had this little bit where it seemed like McAfee and Cole had actually made up and things were cool, but then he heard McAfee saying a few things and got ticked off again, and they ended up having a scuffle, and then Triple H and Shawn Michaels come out, and a bunch of referees come out, ends up distracting dudes from Undisputed Era, and they end up losing to Imperium in this match. But at the end of all of this, Pat McAfee booted.
You don't have to do it again. It's fine.
Adam Cole, baby, in the face.
Which led to Triple H basically shoving Pat McAfee out of the way. They've been doing this so perfectly. I love that this is actually happening, and it just proves that punters do matter.
Yeah.
Because I have a friend from Connecticut my friend Connor, I'm going to call him out just in case he's actually watching, or one of my friends is actually watching right now.
Connor the Crusher.
Connor came out and said that punters are not real football players.
Huh?
Them and kickers don't matter in football. And I've been a huge supporter because there's nothing more special to a team than special teams. So the kicker, the punter, and the long snapper are three very integral parts towards the football team. But I am on board 100% with Pat McAfee. I felt like he should have been the one that was signed instead of the Gronk. Even though I think Gronk could have been a star in WWE if they just let him meet Shield everywhere. But he decided that he wanted to go play football in the Tampa Bay with Tom Brady.
Yep.
I wouldn't rule out a Gronk return, though.
Oh, I think he'll be back.
He's got to bring Tebow with him, though.
Right.
That's all I want, Tebow and WWE.
But at the end of all this, after NXT, it was, I believe, officially announced yesterday that Pat McAfee will be going against Adam Cole, BayBay, at TakeOver. And Adam Cole, BayBay could take anybody to a good match. And I think McAfee probably has been planning this for a while. Like, they've been planning this for a while, so I think he's probably actually trained a little bit. Mm-hmm. Just like Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone back in the day.
Just like the Snooki.
Yeah. So.
Shame Nicole wasn't there for that one.
So. Snooki wants smush smush.
Snooki wants smush smush.
Anyway.
So we get into some...
What if Snooki ends up at SummerSlam in Atlantic City because they're on the Jersey Shore?
What if Snooki wins the Battle Royal? I would stop watching wrestling.
Yeah?
If Snooki fought Bayley, unless she took the title from Bayley.
Right.
Because that would be the only person who would be... The only person worse than Snooki... Sorry.
Thanks, Prince Valium.
Come back!
Yeah.
See? I was talking about Bayley and it made me yawn.
Well, I mean, she needs to see her manager.
Yes. The manager.
Yeah. All right. So, SmackDown. SmackDown this week, we had Matt Riddle going against Sheamus. Which, to me, this actually led to one of what I think the more interesting bookings that they've done. So, King Corbin has come out with the King's Ransom, where he wants people to take out the original Bro, and Shorty G has answered that call for the last couple of weeks. And Shorty G, during the process of this match, ended up getting Sheamus disqualified, and Sheamus wasn't happy about that. It's like, dude, I wanted to win the match, and not like, this is bullshit. And he bro kicked Shorty G a couple times for what he did. And later on in the show, ended up going to King Corbin and calling him out. Don't you ever do that to me again? We're going to have some issues, fella. So.
Chris Brown said that he refuses to call Bayley by her given name, and he's still going to call her Bitchy Two Faces.
Bitchy Two Belts.
Same difference.
Right. Except for that time when you just called her Bayley. Just call her Bitchy Two Belts. We'll know.
I'm going to call her Bayley Manning till the day I die.
All right. So Sheamus loses. Riddle, gets beat up again by Shorty G. He did ended up, Riddle ended up looking okay later on. Then we had Cesaro going against Lince Dorado. Cesaro looked good here, and Cesaro should win this match, and he did. I hope this, maybe this means we're getting Lucha House Party versus Cesaro and Nakamura. Which, if that's going to happen, that means that the Lucha House Party has to win a non-title match against Cesaro and Sheamus. Or Cesaro, I'm sorry, I'm used to the Ba. I'm just, I hope that that's not what they do. Lucha House Party beating Cesaro and Nakamura in a non-title match. That would just be stupid.
A name for that, Chris, would be Bossy Two Belts.
Right, for Sasha.
Yes.
All right, so...
Actually, I kind of like Two Belts Bakes.
Right?
Right? Yeah?
Yeah!
Who's that Snoop Dogg where he wants to name his cousin?
Right. All right, so then we had Jeff Harvey going against Baron Corbin in a match. And as this was going on, kind of almost furthering a little bit, or at least playing off the storyline that just finished up between Hardy and Sheamus. We had Sheamus come and beat the hell out of Jeff Hardy, gave him a sick brogue kick where Hardy like went into the back of the ring. It did not look like a pleasant bump. But so Sheamus does that and basically costs Corbin the match. So Corbin, pissed off about Sheamus doing that, and then we ended up having a match between Sheamus and Corbin because why the hell not? Well, but the thing was, they actually built a storyline that made sense.
Yeah.
And they integrated a bunch of different parts, whether it was the last bits of the Sheamus Hardy storyline, the King's Ransom storyline, and like just, Sheamus like, I wanted to effing win the match, you asshole. I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. And I thought it worked together incredibly well. But at the end here, the original bro comes out, distracts Corbin long enough for Sheamus to deliver the brogue kick. Wins the match. And I enjoyed this match, actually. It was like one of those hitting slobber knockers.
I don't like the people who don't like Baron Corbin. Because it's like, yes, I understand like years ago, Baron Corbin was terrible. He couldn't cut a promo to save his life. He wasn't the greatest in the ring. He was just a douche.
Right. Now he's kind of refined himself as a character because he understands that people don't like him. And he's kind of used that to help build him up as a character. Yeah. I actually like him because he's actually a legitimate heel.
Yes.
That they have. And the anger and the angst that people have towards Corbin, I think, is unwarranted in this situation. Because the guy's actually a really good heel. He's actually not terrible in the ring.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
All right, so another thing we had is we had Dirt Sheet this week featuring Sonya Deville. And she cut a heck of a promo. Mandy Rose was talking about how Mandy was just a bikini contestant who won, and she has no respect for Mandy, and everything about Mandy is her looks. And Sonya's like, I'm going to make her as ugly on the outside as she is on the inside. I thought it was really good shit, pal. And I dug this segment, and it kind of helped play into, because like they were making fun of Mandy, all of them were, and like Otis got ticked off and ended up setting up for Heavy Machinery versus Miz and Morrison. And match going along, and then out comes Mandy with a new look. She didn't look too terribly bad.
She never does.
But with the shorter hair, and she came out in jeans, and like that, they had a pull apart brawl that was much better than was it Dakota Kai a few months ago or not Dakota Kai, Mia Yim, who was in the pull apart brawl that looked like absolute horse shit.
Yes.
This was not that. It wasn't super clean, but like it looked like real animosity, and like, them doing like double leg takedowns on each other, and just, and neither of them really got like one up on the other. I like the way how this played out in Heavy Machinery, and Miz and Morrison did not. It was no contest.
Yep.
But I dug the storytelling because it's fusing a couple of storylines together now.
Yep, I agree.
So there was that, and then we had Stephanie McMahon meeting with Bayley, Bitchy Two Belts, and the
Two Belts Banks.
Two Belts Banks, and that's where she did announce the Triple Brand Battle Royale, and whoever wins that's going to be going against Bayley.
I wouldn't kick her out of bed for eating crackers.
Eating crackers in bed is definitely a big no-no. It's a big faux pas. So, yeah.
Yeah?
Stephanie, more or less like, hey, bitchy 2 belts, and Sasha, I'll just say Sasha. Like, 2 of you kind of like messed around with the stipulations I came up with, and you've been doing some stuff that, like, hey, I don't necessarily like it, but I'm not one to hold a grudge. I'm a McMahon. Right. But says, all right, well, here you go. Triple brand battle royal. The winner faces bitchy 2 belts at SummerSlam, and then set up the Asuka and bitchy 2 belts match for Monday Night on Raw. And if Asuka wins, she'll get her title shot at SummerSlam, playa.
Which means Asuka will probably win.
Yeah. I'm going to, I mean, I've already retired that as part of my bad or brainless because it happens too much.
Oh, see, I will never.
I know you're never going to retire WWE booking, although it always drives me nuts when you're generic about
I will
it.
say this, they have been doing some pretty good booking things, so they're not my bad or brainless this week.
And
So I think we all know where I'm going, brainless.
pretty good booking, for the most part, is the Bray Wyatt Braun Strowman feud. Fiend came out this week and was messing around with Alexa Bliss again, but this time instead of being able to put the mandible claw on, Alexa kind of pushed away his hand and like massaged his face, and then all of a sudden Fiend pulled away. He backs off, and that's when Braun ends up on camera and talking about how he knew going into the swamp fight, hey, I knew either you were going to get the baddest son of a bitch in the world, or I was going to have to go to a place that I've never gone before. And he's like, well, it looks like you got the baddest son of a bitch in the world. But then one thing I didn't like, they incorporated Alexa into the storyline the last few weeks, and then all of a sudden Braun's like, I don't care about her.
Right. Sure he does.
Right. But, him talking, though, about how, like, there was a monster inside that was trying to scratch and claw out, and I did my best to hold it down. And it wasn't until the swamp fight where now he's come out and Fiend, you're not going to like what you've awoken. So, in general, beside... Right. We'll get into that in a moment, too. But aside from the fact that he just brushed aside one of the little elements that I really liked, which was adding Alexa Bliss as a portion of this storyline, I thought this was a well-done segment. Are you going to say anything?
I'm just reading what Eric put. Love Asuka, would love to eat crackers in bed with her and play video games.
Right.
Drink stout beer. What?
Well,
I like stout beer.
Stout beer is very hit and miss with me. It's either good or it's terrible. Good and terrible.
Don't start.
All right. What are your thoughts on this segment?
I liked it. I'm still digging the whole Alexa Bliss being a part of this.
But he just kind of brushed her aside,
I know, but that's what he said. But we all know for a fact that that's not the case. Because she wouldn't have been brought into the equation if he was even had her on her mind or anything like that. I'm telling you right now, this is not the end of what we're seeing with the whole Alexa Bliss, Braun Strowman, Fiend storyline going forward. I have a feeling that I wouldn't be surprised if Alexa Bliss was the one that cost Braun Strowman the title against the Fiend. I could also see a situation where Nikki Cross could get involved in some way, shape, or form. I don't think we've seen the last of this storyline going forward between the three of them. And the fact that Strowman coming out and saying that he has no feelings for Alexa Bliss is a bunch of bullshit. So that's my thought on it.
All right, so Chris is talking about one of your favorite possibilities of things happening is the hot potato. Okay, so assuming Asuka beats Sasha for the belt at SummerSlam, what's going to prevent them from giving the belt to Shayna Baszler the Raw after SummerSlam? Vince McMahon, at least last we knew, was not very high on Shayna Baszler. I know they brought her back, and they haven't made her look terrible, but if the boss doesn't like you, then it usually doesn't change like from one day to the next. You have to do something extraordinarily different than what you've done before to like it, for him to like what you're doing. One of the things apparently Vince McMahon is very high on is Bayley. He loves the new persona on Bayley, and that's why he puts her on everything. So I don't know if his tune has changed with Shayna Baszler. I don't see that happening.
Mm-hmm. I don't either. Because I mean, look how long the Ricochet's been in the doghouse for no apparent reason. When Vince was high on him, and then the next day he's like, "Yeah, I'm not so high on Ricochet anymore." And now Ricochet is, as MVP said, you can find him in catering.
Yeah. So to end SmackDown last night, we kept on having flickering lights throughout the show, and we ended up having what I would consider a Walmart brand Nexus attack with a chainsaw. Now, the chainsaw thing I thought was an interesting touch. The fact that they spray painted all the plexiglass, I'm guessing they decided that the plexiglass either needed to be cleaned or they needed new plexiglass because too many people have been breathing on it. But the chainsaw reminded me, there was a band back in the early 90s. Well, they're still around. A band called Jackal. Jackal had a song called Lumberjack. In the middle of the song, there was a chainsaw solo. I had never heard a chainsaw solo in a song before or after then. But when I saw the chainsaws come out, I'm like, oh, hey, this is just like Jackal with the chainsaw. But, you know, them cutting the ropes and like having the masks on and like,
Retribution
is their name. Like, obviously, they are limited because they can't have a bunch of people around. Yes, they laid out all of the NXT like trainees, and you know, Michael Cole, BayBay, and Corey Graves, like ran off. Like, hey, we're getting the heck out of here. But we, you know, they came out with like bats, pipes, and things like that. For what they had, it was okay. It was not great. It could have been better, but again, it came off as like store brand, Walmart brand, Nexus Invasion.
Yeah.
Just not as, it was all right, but it was nowhere near as good.
Agreed.
So, hey man, thanks for tuning in from Melbourne, Australia. Awesome.
It's good shit, pal.
Thank you for tuning in, and make sure that you know, you set the notifications to when we're going live for on Facebook on the Wrestling Marks page. But we really appreciate it, and make sure you check us out. We are the FN Marks at facebook.com/the-FN-MARKS, and on all other social media outlets. So.
Good shit, pal. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with this Retribution going forward. Like, who are the members going to be? Because I know they've been talking about keeping it close to the chest about who is going to be in the members of the Retribution. But I know a lot of people have been going out there saying it's going to be Tommaso Ciampa's part of it. A lot of people are speculating that Donovan Dijakovic's going to be part of it because I believe it was last week or earlier this week, Donovan Dijakovic and Tommaso Ciampa deleted all their tweets and posts on Instagram. And that's kind of a sign that maybe that's what they're doing with all this stuff. Who knows?
Yeah.
Only WWE knows, actually. But we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah. So that's how we went off the air on SmackDown last night. And I thought in general, I was entertained by this show. Again, fused storylines together, and I like the unique way that they brought a Baron Corbin and Sheamus match.
Yeah.
And having two heels go against each other, and not having a crowd doesn't make it weird because the crowd during a match with two heels generally doesn't know who the hell to cheer for.
I knew who to cheer for.
But
I'm cheering for Sheamus no matter what.
Right.
Lobster head.
All right. So that does WWE for the week. AEW. We had a 12-man tag match where we had the Dark Order going against FTR and the Elite. And Dark Order actually ended up going over. But the story they built within the match was you had Dax Harwood tweak his knee. Because of that, what's his name? Cash Wheeler and Hangman Page brought him back to get medical attention, and it took a long time for Hangman to finally come back. And then when Hangman did come back, he got the hot tag and like House of Fire there, but in the end, not quite enough. Hangman gets pinned.
Interesting. I thought it was very interesting that they did it this way. I know they've been trying to build the Elite up a little bit. And I really am curious to see what they're going to do in a few weeks when they do All Out. Like, does FTR get the tag team title shots against Omega and Page? Are they going to fight the Young Bucks? Is it going to be a triple threat for the tag team titles between those three teams? Do the Best Friends somehow get involved? Now with this victory, does the Dark Order now deserve a shot at the tag team titles?
Well, it's a 6-man tag match, so it's a little bit different. And Brody Lee was the one who gave a lariat to Hangman Page to get the pin. But, you know, I think the story here, more than anything, is like Page seems to be buddy-buddy with FTR, but not so much with his partner. He's okay with his partner, but he's not bros with him. He's
Right.
bros with FTR. So, and speaking of bros, the Best Friends had a match against Santana and Ortiz. This freaking outstanding. This match went on for a long time. Although the end of this, like, I was happy that the Best Friends went over. Santana and Ortiz seem to be the team that everybody ends up beating, but they're on the inner circle. They're the heels. It's almost like the Four Horsemen back in the day, where Four Horsemen lost all the time, but they were still the main, antagonists for the show. But the Best Friends go over, but Santana and Ortiz were so incensed. They went in, and I don't even remember how they put her into the storyline, but apparently Trent's mother's minivan was out in the parking lot.
When they had their tag team title match against the Elite, she dropped off Trent Beretta at the show, and that's kind of like where this whole storyline is kind of taken off with Trent's mom being there.
So they ended up beating the holy hell out of the minivan.
Hopefully, and I really do mean this.
I know we're thinking the same thing.
I hope to goodness gracious, whatever I have to.
Goodness gracious me!
I do not need Trent Beretta's mom on
We
a
do not
fourth
see
match.
We do not need Sue Beretta.
No, we don't.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw that, I'm like, going, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I do not want to see that.
Keep Vince Russo away from AEW at all costs.
Yes. Right? Even Petey thinks so. All right. So we had Cody and Matt Cardona going against Alex Reynolds and John Silver. This was Matt Cardona's first ever match as part of the AEW brand. And he and Cody go over here. And
No surprise.
yeah, and he hit him with, I believe it used to be called the Rough Rider, and they call it Radio Silence now. So
Don't hate that name.
yeah, it's fine. But the real action for this happened at the end of the match. I'm pumped for this. As Cardona and Cody are leaving ringside area as he's heading up tunnel, Scorpio Sky gives Cody Rhodes a look, looks at the TNT title. I want to see that match.
And we will be getting that match next week on AEW Dynamite.
So
It's going to be Scorpio Sky fighting Cody Rhodes for the TNT title. 100% on board with that.
yeah. All right. So then we had Matt Harvey come out and cut a promo talking about, how happy he is to be in AEW, where he feels like, his opinion's respected, and he feels like the fans like seeing this version of him better than what they saw prior. But basically, he's like, the dudes for Private Party, I have their back no matter what. But one person I don't have his back for is Sammy Guevara. And more or less said, I told him about Chris Jericho. I told him to stay away from him. And he goes away for a little bit. And he comes back. And what does he do? He goes right back in the arms of Chris Jericho. And Guevara comes out and like, he tried to blindside him, but like Hardy's like, I know you're there. And like they start having a brawl. And then this is where it gets interesting, because Guevara, there was supposed to be kind of like a gimmicked chair. And then the gimmick chair, Guevara couldn't find the right chair. Mm-hmm. So he just took whatever chair was there and just threw it like a dart at Hardy and hit him, busted him open badly. Hardy ended up needing 13 staples to close the wound. And like, he was, blood was everywhere, like quickly. Mm-hmm. Guevara ends up doing like putting Hardy on the table and doing like a 450 onto him, and it looked great and everything, but like Guevara has himself in some heat for this, because like Hardy wasn't supposed to get opened up like that, and Hardy on Twitter like, looking forward to your receipt or something along those lines, or receipts coming, Sammy.
Eric had chimed in and said that he cannot take Cody serious because of the neck tattoo. And then we had a question. Actually, we had a couple of them. Do you guys reckon Aubrey looks like Marilyn Manson in her last photo op? I think he's talking about referee Aubrey, whatever her name is, from AEW. We'll have to look into that.
I have not seen it.
And also he asked if who we thought was going to be the next TNT champion.
I don't see Cody relinquishing it anytime soon, honestly. And as far as like somebody building up, I almost want to say that it's going to be somebody like Jungle Boy. That would be my guess.
I would love to see Scorpio Sky.
I would love to see him too. I just don't think it.
I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on it yet. I think that Cody's going to get it for a little bit longer. If I had my guess of guesses, is I agree with you. I think it is somebody who's going to be on the up and coming. I can see somebody like Matt Cardona winning the TNT title, because he is kind of up and coming. I mean,
he's new.
Yeah, he's new.
For AEW.
Even somebody like a Brody Lee, I could see, maybe is that like a stepping stone title for him to win in AEW.
I mean, he beat Marco Stunt, so.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Jericho can win the TNT title. Anything's possible.
All right, Gags the Clown is saying she does look like Marilyn Manson. All right.
We will have to check that out for sure.
Oh, I don't want you. I don't need you. All right. So, yeah, poor Matt Hardy, he was bleeding all over the place, but I think it's going to just make their feud even better, honestly. I think it's going to add an extra level of tension and, a lot of physicality to it. Mm-hmm. So,
agreed.
Not that I like to see people get hurt. So, Gags saying Sean Spears. He thinks Sean Spears is going to be that.
I think the fact that he's kind of like taking a back seat as of late, I think that's one of the reasons why he's not going to be the one that ends up winning it.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So, then for the first time in 20 years, we had Eric Bischoff on TNT moderating a goat and another goat.
A goat off.
It was a goat off indeed. Everything about this, to me, was almost like pitch perfect.
And I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Chris brought up a really good point that Reby Sky also went on there and called Sammy Guevara an idiot on social media. Obviously, and it's part of the reason, but really just like gets my blood boiling. It's like anytime anything happens to Matt, doesn't matter if he gets like a paper cut or if somebody wrongs him or whatever the hell it is,
Reby Sky's going out there and just going on social media and just blasting the shit out of whoever the fuck it is.
Yes.
I'm actually at the point where I'm getting tired of hearing Reby Sky open her fucking mouth. It's like you don't wrestle. You're just.
She used to.
I know she used to, but it's like you don't wrestle anymore. You're basically just the mother of Matt Hardy's kids. You just. I'm tired of it. It's like
She's defending her man, though.
it's the same. She did the same thing with her brother-in-law, who she doesn't even like. It's like, oh, of course, now we got to hear from Reby Sky. It's like if anything happens to Matt Hardy, it's like now we got to fucking hear it. It's like, come on, man. I don't need to hear from Reby Sky. I'm sorry. I'm just tired of it.
Okay.
And people agree with me because I'm getting thumbs up. But anyway, I'm sorry. The goat off between the Orange Goat City and Chris Goat and Jericho.
Right.
I don't screw that one up.
There were so many things I loved about this segment.
The fact that Chris Jericho was standing in the ring with Eric Bischoff.
Well, I mean, they had Bischoff kind of like on this podium, like moderating kind of outside the ring, but like Jericho kind of, it was almost like Jericho Price is Right with Bob Barker, where he looked like he was biting a lemon and just incensed completely by the presence of Orange Cassidy. And the Jericho here in this segment, like telling Cassidy that like, you're going to have to pay for my $7,000 jacket that you ruined with your orange juice. And just every question that was put out there, Jericho would answer, and then Orange Cassidy answered in an Orange Cassidy fashion with basically no answer. Until Eric Bischoff asked about global warming. And then finally, Orange Cassidy had an awful lot to say. And he actually explained what was going on with the rising tides, this, that, and the other thing. And like, the other thing that I thought was great was Jericho was incensed that Orange Cassidy came out like in his denim jacket and an Orange Cassidy shirt. And like, you should at least dress up for this. And Orange Cassidy takes out a clip-on tie. I mean, just beautiful.
I'm sorry.
Beautiful. Loved it. But a lot of Jericho just calling Cassidy like a flash in the pan, and nobody's going to know who he is next week or after next week. And
Cassidy's going over next week.
of course he is.
And it's probably going to lead to them having a rubber match at All Out. But I think in the end, didn't we get a AEW World Title match?
We did get an AEW World Title match, and the main event was Jon Moxley defending the title against Darby Allin. They had him cut a promo that aired earlier in the evening where he talks about how he's been trying to give advice to Darby Allin, saying, hey, kid, you're going to hurt yourself and you're not going to be able to walk. And he was like, I want him to, hey, at some point you have to just not get back up and just lick your wounds and come back to fight another day. And he's like, I understand. I was exactly like that. And people brought me aside and told me the same thing. And it wasn't until years later where I finally got it. And I'm not telling, he's like, Darby, I'm not telling you this because I don't want you to go out there and succeed and do your thing, but I want you to be able to walk later. But, they use that to help play into the match. And Moxley kind of beating down Darby Allin, but Darby Allin pulling out all the stops, doing it.
It was a great match.
It was. Moxley got busted open, but filtered within this also was the fact that MJF, has been doing his campaign 2020 to get his match against Moxley. But by the end of this, the number one contender who has been chasing after Jon Moxley for the past several weeks now is finally like, at the end of this match, when Moxley goes over and he saw the beating that Darby Allin got, MJF's kind of like slowly trying to like going, yeah, I don't want this match anymore, even though he's, I think, signed into it, so he has to take it. I loved how they fused all this together. It's such good shit.
Great storytelling this week.
Yeah.
Fantastic storytelling this week.
Oh boy. All right. Aiden asks, would you guys rather A, smoke weed with RVD, get on the drinks with Scott Hall, get on the pill bender with Ric Flair, kiss Stephanie McMahon's ass, but you gotta kiss Vince's too? A.
That's an easy one. Smoke with Rob Van Dam.
And I don't even like smoking.
And my favorite part about that is I actually had a chance, if I was actually smart enough to have actually brought weed with me to Webster, Mass. Back in 2013, because Rob Van Dam was working the show. But he had just signed with WWE right before the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And I was like, I would love to do it, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah?
So,
Monsef chiming in saying he just watched the greatest WrestleMania ever. 5.
not a terrible one.
Hey, the Mega Powers exploded.
Yeah.
Our future president was the host of that WrestleMania, and that helped lead him to be a WWE Hall of Famer.
And the Blue Blazer made his WrestleMania debut against Mr. Perfect.
Yes, it was his first loss.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a good match.
Yes, it was.
Yes, MJF 2020. MJF is a GOAT.
Yes, he is.
So, but that was AEW Dynamite for this week. A really entertaining show, and I think they do a better job at kind of building their storylines. And guess what? The viewers responded to this awesome show. It was the first time since March AEW got over 900,000 people to tune in. We had somebody ask, what was it, last week? Will they ever get over 1 million? I wasn't sure if they'd get back up to that level after this past week with how much they climbed. Maybe it is possible.
And most importantly, I think it was in the 18 to 34 demographic, they beat Monday Night Raw.
So, all right. Aiden's saying, if Mox wins, I riot. We agree. Well, we won't riot, but we believe that MJF is going to win the title at All Out.
I wouldn't be surprised if Moxley won, though. That's one of those situations that whoever wins the match, I'm going to be happy as champion. So I like both of them.
Yeah.
But like if Orange Cassidy wins the title, good God, that freaking Orange Cassidy winning the AEW title will be a bigger moment than when Johnny Gargano won the NXT title. And Jeff.
Come on.
Jeff, I mean, it took me 3 weeks to clean all the fucking the Jeff stains all over the fucking living room after that happened.
Wait. Yeah. Anyway. So, all right.
Good, bad, and the brainless?
Good, bad, and the brainless.
So what is your good for this week, Cousin Jay?
There was so much good to be had this week. There really was. I'm going with Raw Underground. I like the fact that like they've done something different. Like part of me wanted to do like the whole storyline yesterday night that they did with like Sheamus, Corbin, the original Bro, Shorty G. Like they integrated an awful lot of stuff together to combine to make an awesome thing. But I like the fact that they have broken the format to do something like Raw Underground. I know that probably was going to be your good, but
I was kind of hoping because it was between two things, and that was actually one of the two things. The other one was what's going to be my good for this week, and that was the debate between Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy. The two of them delivered. You know what you're going to get out of Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho's been doing it for so goddamn long that you just know that he's a GOAT. And he's a GOAT of GOATs who's goated more than GOATs have ever goated in the history of GOATdom. And he deserves that title justifiably.
yeah.
And Orange Cassidy has done so well just helping build his own brand, and he has just done what he's got to do. They're going to have a great match on Wednesday, and what they did on this past Wednesday on Dynamite was Dynamite.
Yeah.
So they got my good for this week.
All right. Bad for this week for me. I'm going with Sammy Guevara. I mean, the way he threw that chair, it was reckless, and you know, a wrestler getting hurt because of somebody being reckless. How many times have we brought up that subject?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're really well schooled in the ring and respected. I mean, Seth Rollins hurt a bunch of people, and he got chastised for it for a bit, and he cleaned up his shit.
He did.
So Sammy Guevara, sky's the limit with him, but he keeps shooting himself in the foot. So I'm going with Sammy Guevara.
Okay. I actually agree with you on that. I'm going to say that is my bad. I think we're going to agree on our brain list.
There's no way we can't agree on this.
And I'll tell you right now, like the bad. I mean, that was pretty bad. The fact that he busted open Hardy, and the fact that Hardy needed all those staples to shut the wound and everything, and the fact that he called him out. And I don't blame Matt Hardy for doing what he did either.
Yeah, like Matt coming out and saying like, I hope you like the receipt you're going to get.
And it's like, Guevara just came back from a suspension. It was obviously for something completely different. And like not even 2 weeks after his return from the suspension, he's out there and he's getting reckless in the ring and injuring somebody and causing them to have staples put in their head. But it's like, as much as I would have loved to have gone differently, I mean, it was because of two things. Number one, there was nothing worse than this for bad. And number two, there was just so much good this week, it made it hard for me to come up with a different bad.
Right.
But I can't. Just recklessness in the ring. If I'm going to go after Nia Jax and say she's my bad and brainless for being reckless in the ring, I have to deliver to other people. So that's why Sammy Guevara gets my bad for this week.
All right, and our brain list obviously is going to be Marty Jannetty. Like, I'm sad that this guy has had to go through so much stuff in life, and if his story is true, that like he was getting molested or about to be molested, and he wanted to beat the guy down and accidentally killed him, and then sounds like he threw him in a river. But coming out and I mean, telling people you did it and almost making it sound like you might have to do it again. Like if he was coming out and just repenting for a past sin, like I did this. I'm sorry I did this.
Now I'm asking God for forgiveness for what I've done.
That's something.
That's something. I mean, the fact that you're basically saying that you've done something in the past and you plan on doing it again, it's stupid.
Yeah. So,
like you said, whatever kind of drugs he's on, it's got to be the good drugs because that's the only thing that would actually describe or can explain why he's going through what he's going through.
All right. So Aiden has a couple of questions before we wrap up. Our thoughts on these concepts: WWE and or AEW World Cup pay-per-view, Tag Team Royal Rumble, and return of 3 stages of hell matches.
I think a Tag Team Royal Rumble is a little too much because a lot of those companies don't have enough tag teams. The only way
they've had them before.
Yeah.
Where like if one person gets eliminated,
then both. But it's a lot of times it's a battle royal.
Yeah.
I think they have the right formula now, where they have a men's and a women's Royal Rumble because it works with what they have. A World Cup, I would 100% be on board with. I would love to see like a World Cup where you would get
New
Japan, you would get Japan, you go up
AEW.
against. Not even just that, but like if you did it by like countries.
So you're saying like the Pat O'Connor Memorial Tournament?
Yes.
That had several qualifying matches during Clash of the Champions 13.
Even that, but like if you did like teams of 3 or like groups of 4, whatever the hell it is, and you just have them go up against each other. Like you can have an Ireland team that's consisted of Sheamus and Finn Balor and Becky Lynch, and you can have like a Canada team which is Natty Neidhart and Edge and just use that Kevin Owens, guys like that.
And when he's saying World Cup, I'm wondering if also doing it more similar to like soccer style, where you have a group
round robin, yeah.
And you play everybody within that, similar to what they did for the Cruiserweight interim championship, where you go against everybody, and then whoever ends up winning within that group ends up advancing. I mean, there are a lot of things they could do with that, but I mean, not that it would ever happen. I would have loved for the different actual wrestling organizations to come together to do something. And back in the, I think it was early 90s, late 80s maybe, there was a thing called Super Clash, where basically all of the territories got together because they needed to try to compete with Vince. So all of the major territories in North America got together, or most of them in North America, to try to put on a big event, and it. And I remember Jerry Lawler ended up going over on Kerry Von Erich, but I think Vince McMahon was like talking about it at one point where he's like, "Yeah, these guys were trying to compete against me, yet I knew that they couldn't stand each other and couldn't even be in the same room for a cup of coffee. How are they ever going to come together and figure out a way forward to have a show where everybody's person gets over?" So, yeah. I'm sorry, Monsef. It's football. It's football to everywhere in the world except for the United States. We have weird terms for things. 3 stages of hell matches. I've always been okay with them. I think the last one was a few years back at SummerSlam, maybe. I want to say Triple H might have been involved with it.
The one I
or John Cena.
The one I always think of is Ryback.
Maybe it was.
Ryback and I think Cena were in a 3 stages of hell match. It was the last one I can think of off the top of my head. I would be 100% on board with a World Cup. 3 stages of hell. Yeah, if the circumstances is right. A tag team battle, tag team Royal Rumble. No, I don't like that idea. Nothing personal.
Yeah. All right.
All right, I think that's what we got for today.
Yeah.
If you like what you've seen, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Periscope, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like, follow, and subscribe to us, we will do the same back. Also, make sure you tune into the Wrestling Marks page, which is facebook.com/WrestleMarks, and set up for notifications so that when we do go live, you are notified, and
Thanks, Aiden.
and you know when we're going live, and you can watch the show with us.
Yeah.
But anyway, wait. That's right.
There is something else.
Actually, there's 2 things. Number one, I wanted to give a birthday shout out to my girlfriend Nicole. It was her birthday on Thursday, and I wanted to give her a shout out for her birthday today. Happy birthday, Nicole. I wish you were actually tuning in when I did this, but it's all good.
Yeah.
But anyway, there is one thing we got to do.
What is that, Cousin Bobby?
That's because, Cousin Jay, today, August 8th of 2020, at 1,829 days, Curtis Axel is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble.
This week wasn't an astonishing 1,829 days. You didn't put the word astonishing. That's almost every week.
I know. Change it up a little bit.
So,
See if people are
right.
shocked.
Right. I'm paying attention.
Yeah. So anyway, for episode 186 of the F and Marks podcast,
I'm Jay.
and I am the brainless one. Make sure you mark out
With your clock up. See everybody.
and tune it in.